Hello and welcome to News Central Television. I am Dakbo Adigboye. The top stories at this hour. Nigerian Senate to convene National Security Summit. 40 killed, houses burnt as bandits attack Plateau community in Nigeria's north-central region. 10 killed in Egypt as minibus plunges off ferry into Nile. Details in a moment. News Central now at this hour begins in Nigeria, where the Nigerian Senate resolved at Tuesday's plenary to hold a national security summit to address the country's escalating security challenges. The summit will bring together heads of security agencies, governors, traditional rulers, socio-cultural groups, and civil society organizations to discuss and also seek solutions to the insecurity crisis. The decision followed a discussion on the recent killings of innocent citizens by alleged herdsmen in parts of Kogi State. Senator Issa Jubrin, representing Kogi East, highlighted the deadly attack in his constituency, which resulted in significant loss of lives and property. Ruling on the motion of the killing of innocent citizens in some parts of Kogi East, President of the Senate, Godswill Akpabio, said the summit will be all-encompassing. The upper chamber consequently resolved to set up an ad hoc committee comprising one senator from each geopolitical zone to look at the matter holistically.
Headers invaded the Agoji Jodo, Ajokwachi Jodo, Bagaji and Bagana communities, killing 21 innocent citizens, including women and children, in addition to unprecedented destruction of their farm produce. Alarmed that on 30th April 2024, gunmen attacked Ajokwachi Jodo community in Omala local government area, killing no fewer than 3 persons and rendering the entire community desolate, with no health facility to cater for the deteriorating health conditions of the survivors.
What we owe these people goes beyond rhetoric, go beyond condemnation, go beyond 1 minute silence, go beyond crying every day. No, our tears will solve this problem. I submit, sir, that we set up an ad hoc committee, invite public hearing, let it be well publicized, let everybody come there and share with us what they know, enrich our limited knowledge of what is going on across the country, and let us find once and for us a lasting, sustainable solution so that this country can be what it used to be.
The livestock industry is worth 30 trillion naira. In fact, some authorities will tell you it's 30 trillion naira in Nigeria. So this is a very important industry. And we cannot neglect it. While we deal with those who kill our people, we must be looking at the possibility, the necessity, and imperative of making government, the federal government particularly, to see how to resuscitate the lives and livelihood of those who are willing to remain within the boundaries of the law.
An ad hoc committee to look at the issue of farmers, sellers, clashes holistically with a view to convoking a national summit to discuss the issues and take decisions therefrom to guide the Senate in establishing the necessary legislation that will bring an end to these clashes and killings. And of course, you've seen that the whole thing is actually a national menace, and everybody is very concerned across all divides in the country. So you can see the totality of the voices here are also the voices of Nigerians speaking that yes, indeed, enough is enough. We should find an end to these killings, find an end to the destruction.
Staying with security matters, still about 40 persons have been said to have died after unknown gunmen suspected to be bandits in Zurak village, Bashir district in Wase local government area of Plateau State. The attack, which left many locals injured, also recorded many houses burnt beyond repair in the well-known mining site. Details of the incident are still sketchy, but Safi Sambo, who is an eyewitness, said the gunmen entered the village at about 8 o'clock on Monday night on motorcycles and started shooting sporadically. According to Sambo, villagers have fled to neighboring villages for safety, adding that the incident was not quickly reported to security because of poor road and communication network in that area. Meanwhile, burial activities are currently ongoing for victims of the Monday night attack in Wase local government area of Plateau State. Gunmen were said to have invaded the village of Zurak, Bashir district of Wase local government area, which is known to be a very lucrative site for mining. Sources say among those killed were local vigilantes who kept watch for the security of other community members. According to News Central's Chizoba Anyonwe, as at the time of filing this report, there's still no official statement by security agencies regarding details behind this act of inhumanity. To discuss this, we are joined on the news by Mr. Gad Peter, Executive Director, Clean Foundation. Thank you for your time, Gad. Now, let's get straight to it. What are the potential underlying reasons for the frequent attacks by bandits in Wase local government area, particularly the mining regions?
Yeah, like you rightly noted, Company Zura has rich mineral resources. And over the years, we've seen that there's been an increased activities of bandits, increased criminality around mineral producing communities. And so this is one of the major reasons why we can attribute this constant attack on Wase. This is not the first time, it's not the second time it's happening. And clearly this explains that those people are trying either to displace the community so that they can have access to that mineral resources, or they are trying to create an enclave for themselves where they'll be able to attack other communities. Wase is a distance from the state capital, and it's a rural community. Even though it has a House of Rep to itself, a House of Assembly and local government to itself, it's not a very developed local government in terms of the rural community around that area. So this act of criminality is the major driver around why we're seeing frequent attacks in those communities and attempt to adopt people. And like you rightly noted again in your report, there's poor network. So even when those attacks happen, it's not easy to mobilize for support to counter them and all of these issues. But at the heart of this conversation is the issue of criminality and attempt to displace people from their homes and from their land so that some elements can take over and exploit the mineral resources in those communities.
I mean, you used the word, you said it's an attempt to take over homes and land to exploit mineral resources. I mean, is it right in any way to say that the government is not privy to the mineral richness in that particular area, hence making it a hotbed for, attacks like this?
No, Wase has been a mineral producing local government for a very long time. Every government on board is aware, including the federal government, about the protection of the minerals in Wase. So it's not possible for us to say government is not aware, but probably government need to be more proactive in terms of reinforcing security, in terms of surveillance, in terms of information gathering, and able to use that information for the betterment of the people of Wase and Plateau State as a whole and Nigeria. We cannot keep allowing criminal elements to keep running amok in our communities at will. Like I pointed earlier, this is not the first, it's not the second time we're having this kind of attack and massive killing of people. So I think we need to recreate our response. We need to reorganize our security architecture. May the soul of those vigilantes that were killed rest in peace. But again, what kind of weapon do they have to be able to fight back these insurgents and these criminals that invade the communities at will? So I think we need to see a more proactive measure by government across board. Local government, state, federal government, they need to respond to this issue. Because once people live on perpetual fear and uncertainty, development suffers. People are not able to give their best to their community, and people are not able to live a normal life. And these are not the kind of society we want to have around us.
I mean, one thing I know with Plateau is that it has quite a lot of land mass. And when attacks like this occur, it's usually difficult. Land mass coupled with a bit of infrastructural deficit, particularly in the interior areas, like Wase, for instance. So once issues like this occur, transportation is an issue, and also communication. How do you think to forestall, situations like this in the future? This is not the first time. We've had cases across certain local governments where attacks like this happen, and then we are back to this same conversation. What do you think can be done, particularly for areas within the interior, to further boost security, or being proactive, or in a situation whereby even when the attack happens, there is swift response to ensure that lives and property are not lost?
Well, government need to invest more and be able to create a highly mobile security unit. In every state in Nigeria, you have 3 senatorial districts. And so what is expected is that government needs to station a highly mobile security unit like the MOPO we used to have, or the military or civil defense, whatever we want to put in place, or a joint task force at the headquarters of most of these senatorial districts, that within an hour, within 45 minutes, they are able to respond. So you cannot ask security agents to leave the state capital, for example, that is over 2 hours, 3 hours journey, not only to the state, local government capital, but to the hinterland of that local government, and you expect any miracle or response to happen. And so we need to invest in having helicopters that will be able to convey security people to those areas of distress. We need to be able to mobilize neighboring states. For example, if we're as close to Taraba that I know, what about mobilizing troops from Taraba to come in and support in terms of this kind of situation? So I think we need to think within and outside the box. We cannot keep using the same approach to solve issues that are emerging and that keep changing over time. And so we need to have a mobile unit in the senatorial district where when incidents happen, they are able to move right on time, respond within a short period of time. That's the only way we can reassure the locals of their safety and security. And so even at the local government level, we can have a small unit of soldiers, a small unit of MOPOs, a small unit of police that will be able to respond, because the threat in one local government is different from the other local government. So when you do a threat analysis, you should be able to know what kind of manpower you need to deploy to a particular region, a particular locality, in terms of to be able to respond to threats when they occur.
Gad Peter, Executive Director of Clean Foundation, thank you for joining me on the news.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
All right. Now, let's move to labor matters. We are following the workout by the organized labor comprising of the Nigerian Labour Congress and the Trade Union Congress during the last meeting with the Tripartite Committee on Minimum Wage following the proposed 48,000 naira as minimum wage by the federal government. The government has now upped it up to 54,000 naira, though it is not clear whether Labour would accept this offer, as it is far cry from the 615,000 naira proposed by the organized labor. The national president of the Nigerian Labour Congress, Jajero, insisted on 615,000 naira minimum wage, arguing that the amount was arrived at after an analysis of the current economic situation and the needs of an average Nigerian family of 6. The meeting has been adjourned till Wednesday after the organized labor rejected the new 54,000 naira minimum wage proposal. And now to the courts, where Nnamdi Kanu, leader of the band Indigenous People of Biafra, IPOB, caused a stare at the Federal High Court in Abuja after his bail request was denied. Now, Kanu, detained for alleged treasonable felony, sought bail or transfer from the Department of State Services to prison or alternatively house arrest. Judge Binta Nyako rejected his plea, advising him to appeal. She ordered the DSS to allow Kanu access to his lawyers and a doctor of his choice in a clean environment. The judge warned that repeated similar applications by Kanu's legal team would be seen as judicial abuse. Earlier, legal practitioner Stanley spoke to us on this development.
I'm sure it's a deliberate decision to keep him in the custody of the Department of State Security because of the volatility of how jailbreaks have happened in prison custodies recently. As to whether or not he's entitled to all of what the court has granted him, yes, I agree. Constitutionally, you have, and you must always have your access to your lawyers. Of course, maybe with supervision, but not as stringent as the DSS facility seems to be like. Of course, he also has the right to access to medical facilities of his choice, because basically these are fundamental rights that are guaranteed. The only reason why I think they will be holding him back at the moment is basically to just ensure that he's available to stand trial. And that is just the essence of what it is. There are tendencies for our security agencies to go overboard, hence the need for the judge to actually make those definitive pronouncements so that there are no gaps for them to exploit.
Meanwhile, lawyers to the detained leader of the proscribed indigenous people of Biafra, Nnamdi Kanu, have filed a preliminary objection at the Federal High Court in Abuja, asking the trial judge, Justice Binta Nyako, to decline jurisdiction to proceed with the trial against him. Part of the issue for determination is whether the court has the jurisdiction to try Kanu for any or all the offenses charged against him in counts 1, 2, 4, 5, and 8. They pointed out that there are 2 international tribunal decisions against the arrest, detention, prosecution, and trial of Kanu. They also stated that the law under which Kanu is currently being tried in these counts has been repealed, and that is also not supported by the proof of evidence, adding that it is an abuse of court process. Let's go on a quick break. When we return, we have more stories. Stay with us. We now head to Rivers State, where the State High Court has invalidated the amended local government law proposed by the Martin Amaole faction of the Rivers State House of Assembly. The ruling was delivered in a suit which challenged the extension of tenure for LG local government, that's LG chairman, for 6 months after the expiration of their term. Justice D.G. Keo presided over the case, declared the amendment invalid, citing its inconsistency with the 1999 Constitution and Section 9, Subsection 1 of the Rivers State Local Government Law No. 5 of 2018. The court emphasized that the applicable law governing the tenure of local government chairmen and councillors is the Rivers State Local Government Law No. 5 of 2018, which stipulates a 3-year tenure. Let's also tell you that a non-governmental organization, Peering Advocacy and Advanced Center in Africa, has condemned the low level of knowledge and awareness about electoral laws and procedures in Nigeria. The group claims that voters' lack of knowledge about electoral reform has a significant impact on their decision-making, which in turn has an impact on governance and the future of the country. Now, News Central's Adeshewa Odushoga tells us more.
There is hardly an election process in Nigeria without controversies and disagreements with the result. These often comes with kickbacks from defeated candidate or political party, and even electorate who are mostly unimpressed with the result or the conduct of the electoral stakeholders. While corruption and sabotage have been tagged the major hindrance for a free and fair election, there is a fresh belief that the lack of knowledge of the electoral laws guiding voting process in Nigeria have sprouted more controversies post-election. In this regard, a non-governmental organization, Peering Advocacy and Advancement Center in Africa, hosted a town hall meeting with relevant stakeholders to harvest the gains and areas of improvement in future elections as it concerns popularization of the electoral reform.
Every activity from voter registration down to results management, down to collation and the rest of them are all guided by rules and regulation. And so understanding those rules is important.
The meeting involved relevant stakeholders like the Independent National Electoral Commission, civil society groups, religious leaders, and traditional leaders, amongst others.
We educate the citizenry and we open their minds to the content of the enabling instrument, which is the Constitution and more so the Electoral Act 2022.
At the rural level, village level, the residents are not as educated as people in the city, and as such, some of them, they see politicians once in a blue moon. It is when this election is coming up, you see various types of people coming around to them, to talk to them, to campaign, and to do all sorts of things. So, knowledge, to be fair, is limited.
If you know the provisions of the Electoral Act, as well as the Constitution and the INEC rules and regulations, If a candidate tells you, oh, I was rigged, the first question you ask, where were you rigged? What's your results?
The gathering aims to call the attendees' attention to the lack of knowledge on the laws guiding elections, the consequences of ignorance, as well as the importance of the knowledge as it affects the decision-making process, especially by electorate, and the proper conduct by players involved. In Lagos, for News Central, Adeshawa Odushoga.
And if you need a more comprehensive version, you can go through the link.
Residents of the Okunja community in Lagos, Nigeria, have expressed concern over plans to demolish over 2,000 homes in their area for the construction of the Lagos-Calabar Coastal Highway. The Coastal Highway project aims to connect Lagos to Calabar. However, the current route would require demolishing a large number of residences in Okunja community, where members are calling on the federal government to reconsider the project's design and return to the original master plan route for the Coastal Highway. Now, News Central's Neomoni completes the report.
After the last meeting between the federal government and persons to be affected by the construction of the Lagos-Calabar Coastal Way ended in a controversial decision, residents of Okunja community in Lekki area of Lagos State live in fear for the future of their ancestral home. Badamosi Atiku, one of the managers of a major beach along the shore of the community, is one of the many others whose businesses will be greatly affected by the alleged deviation from the original master plan.
We have a lot of vendors doing businesses here, and if you destroy that, you're actually, instead of you to encourage us to have more jobs, you're actually destroying jobs.
The secondary school you are seeing behind me, many HOS IDs have passed through this place. Many elites have passed through this place. We're just appealing to the government to look for a meaningful solution.
The original master plan for the coastal road was meant to run through this estate, allegedly owned by Nigerian businessman Obinna Egbu, best known as Obi Kubana, amongst others, into the swamp to the Lafiaji area of the community. The new plan, however, deviates from this, further compounding the worry of residents who bought land in Okunja, meters away from the original route of the coastal road.
When I came here initially, I was opportune to buy properties around the original route, and I was told that that was coastal road planned axis.
I did a lot of due diligence. I went to Lagos State of your General's office. I charted a lot of properties, and they were telling me it's coastal road, coastal road, coastal road. Before I saw the one that is not coastal road, that the land information told us is residential, that we can buy. And even the Surveyor General's office advised us that, okay, this one, they have excision, they have village excision, they have C of O, that is safe and all that. When we bought property here, they were selling property here 12 million, 14 million. They were selling property on the coastal road for 3 million, for 4 million. So most people that bought properties on the coastal road knew they were on the coastal road. They bought it for cheap. Those properties are properties that everybody felt that is forfeited.
The first meeting that minister had with us at the Eco Hotel, he said that that is the place he will use, and no one, he said, did vividly that no one will take it away from there.
The case has already been filed in court. It's already in court. It is the court that decides on which side the success will go.
Residents of the community are calling on the government to revert to the initial plan as they prepare to head to the courts if their pleas fall on deaf ears. In Lagos, for News Central, Ni Omani.
The federal government of Nigeria and the Maritime Workers Union of Nigeria has started a verification exercise for the disengaged seafarers of the Nigerian National Shipping Line. This verification, which precedes the payment of their pension in coming 28 years after the liquidation of Nigeria's National Shipping Line. News Central's maritime correspondent Neoma Obiasula was there and brings back this report.
Nigerian government and the Maritime Workers Union of Nigeria have started verification for the disengaged seafarers of the Nigerian National Shipping Line after 28 years of liquidation. The verification, which kick-started today at the MPA Sports Complex Lagos, is coming after years of unrelenting battle by the Maritime Workers Union of Nigeria for the payment of their pensions. The exercise will also involve the next of kin for deceased staff. The complex was filled with joy and prayers for the President General of MAUM, whom upon assumption in office made it his goal to ensure government pays these benefits. In his words, the President General of the Maritime Workers Union of Nigeria said the seafarers contributed immensely to the growth of the maritime industry in Nigeria, but sadly, 28 years after, they are yet to be paid their pension.
If they have been doing verifications upon verifications, this one is going to be different because the government are fully involved, the Ministry of Blue Economy, they are fully involved, the DG, NIMASA, they are all involved, Minister of Labour, Minister of Blue Economy, all of them are involved. So there's no how this verification is going to be kept under the carpet, including the Nigeria Port Authority. So they are involved. So it's a tripartite arrangement where nobody will run away from their responsibilities. So it's their right, it's the right of the old men.
There is renewed hope because before now it was as if nothing was going to happen. But thank God for this present government with the Renew Hope agenda, and they have brought hope to these aged seafarers because the reason why this battle have lingered was because whether they're entitled or they are not entitled. But today, the government have realized they're entitled because of the court judgment, and now the verification exercise has started, and we are hopeful that in that verification, there will not be delay in disbursing what they're entitled to.
The seafarers couldn't hold their joy over the verification and the assurance that their pensions will be paid.
I'm part of this verification, and I thank Mr. Adeoju, Prince Adeoju, who stood by us and said, no, this thing will come to an end. Today is the greatest joy in our life. This entire seamen, today is our greatest joy.
I'm very happy. Yes, we have to thank this our President General, Prince Adeoju. He did a lot for us. He stand with us. He promised when he enters it, he will see that we, seafarers, will collect our duty.
Although some seafarers have since died, most of them are still alive and aged as the verification moves to Calabar, Port Harcourt, and One. The expectation is that payments will follow so that these workers will finally get succor after years of service to their country. In Lagos, for News Central, Norma Obiaswalo.
Coming up on the news, 10 killed in Egypt as minibus plunges off ferry into Nile. We have details of this and more after the break. In North Africa, at least 10 persons have died in Egypt when a minibus plunged off a river ferry and into the Nile, north of Cairo on Tuesday. The Health Ministry spokesperson Hussein, who confirmed the figure, said the death toll might rise. According to local media reports, the driver, who had released the handbrake, was arrested while trying to flee. We now head to South Africa, where the African National Congress, ANC, has dominated South Africa with unchallenged dominance for 30 years. However, experts and opinion polls suggest that the general elections scheduled for May 29 will present the strongest challenge from the opposition. Top among other variables contributing to this possible change is the rise of a formidable opponent, the MK party, supported by former President Jacob Zuma. This year's election comes at a time when the ANC is facing an array of challenges. Meanwhile, many youths have vowed not to vote as they feel that the ruling party ANC has not lived up to its promises. News Central's Bongani Sinziba tells us more.
Africa, a nation with a rich history of democracy, is geared up for yet another round of elections. However, after 30 years of democracy, not all citizens are feeling optimistic.
Were the citizens spoiled for choice as they navigate through a sea of political posters adorning every corner of the country? The biggest question on everyone's mind is whether the ANC, the ruling party, for the past 30 years of democracy, has truly lived up to the expectations of its citizens.
For the past 30 years, I would think our current government failed us, especially for the youth in challenge of the education system in our country. As you know, there's only certain people, youth, who can achieve certain tertiaries all of a sudden, so because of our backgrounds.
With the emergence of the new MK party, the political landscape in South Africa is shifting, presenting over 50 political parties for voters to choose from. Each party promises a better life for citizens, some even using migrants as a means to attract votes.
Fellow South Africans, all these problems we can sit here for hours, for days, for weeks, for months and years complaining. Where is the answer to this problem that we are sitting with? The 29th of May this year is going to be a determining day for all of us as South Africans to take responsibility.
Uthi nizenza ukuthi siwine lolu khetho ngoba abanye bahamba yonke indawo bathi nywe bathi bazawina kodwa niyababonisa nina ukuthi ngeke kube njalo.
Here in Pumulan community in Cape Town, many are expressing their frustrations and disillusionment with the current state of affairs. Some are even considering not voting at all.
I will never vote. The reason why I chose and vote because why I could change since 1994. In South Africa has been the same thing. Corruption. Ilapha South Africa, no jobs. Apha kuthi kuyansaz, but funeka sivote. Ndizamvotela for ntoni ANC. For what? Angisoze ndivotele ANC, angisoze ndivotele DA, asoze ndivotele EFF because zonke zine corruption sisi. So akho nto ndizawuvotela mna. I rather stay with my ex.
What about our coloreds? What about our children? Children who's dying here every day. Children that get raped, killed. Children that are homeless. Yes. They can't provide. But every time you must vote. You must vote. People coming, ANC, DA, IFP, whatever selections, why you must vote?
For what?
For what? And they can't do anything to us. They can't provide for our children.
However, for the ANC, which has come under heavy flank lately, not all hope is lost, as there are still those who believe in the governing party.
Into ezininzi zenzekile sizibona abantwana bafunda free ezikolweni ngoku uyakwazi uhlala nomuntu omhlophe kuqala ubungakwazi ndikhumbula kudala ezitishini etraining bekwicala elithi blacks bekwicala elithi white.
I vote for the ANC forever because I vote for Mandela.
However, the looming question remains, will the ANC retain its glory as the governing party, or will the opposition parties manage to upset the status quo?
The future of South Africa lies in the hands of its people. The power to bring about change is within reach. Will they seize the opportunity and shape their destiny? The choice is for the citizens. In Cape Town, Pumulan community, for News Central, Bongani Siziba.
South Africa is all set to host the premier global aerospace and defense trade exhibition. The 12th Biennial Africa Aerospace and Defense Trade Exhibition and Air Show, under the theme Exploring New Paths and Sharing Solutions, showcasing innovation and capability, will take place at the Air Force Base Waterclough on the outskirts of Pretoria. The event is considered to be one of the top 6 events of its kind in the world and is the only aerospace and defense exhibition and air show on the continent. This event will see exhibitors coming from different countries, including the United States, Belgium, and China, amongst others. Joining me to discuss this is, of course, Africa Aerospace and Defense 2024 Exhibition Director, Nakedi Pasha. Thank you for joining me on the news. You're joining from Gauteng in South Africa. Now, can you provide an overview of the upcoming Aerospace and Defense Trade Exhibition in South Africa? What are the key highlights and features of this year's exhibition?
Okay. Good evening, Dago, and good evening to your listeners. So the 12th installment of the Africa Aerospace and Defense Exhibition, set to take place in Johannesburg, Pretoria, from the 18th to the 22nd of September, promises to be the biggest and best yet. Since inception in 2000, we've been running the event for 24 years. Like you said, we are proud that it's one of its kind on the South African, or rather on the African continent. With this event, we aim to really position South Africa, and not just South Africa, but Africa as a continent, as a hub for innovation, and as a destination of choice for investors and collaborators on the African continent. Some of the highlights to expect, as you've already mentioned, some of the leading countries that will be at AAD. I just want to add that we're also expecting African countries in the likes of Namibia and potentially Nigeria, Nigeria's prophets, and we are excited and we are hopeful that they will join us at this event. What people could expect and the highlights is the introduction or showcasing of cutting-edge technology in the aerospace and defense sector, artificial intelligence, and what the defense of the future should look like, what the warfare of the future should look like.
All right, thank you for the insights, Nakedi, and we wish you all the best on the program. One passenger has been killed and more than 30 others injured on a Singapore airline flight from London to Singapore, which was hit by severe turbulence. The Singapore-bound Boeing 777-300ER was diverted to Bangkok and landed at 15:45 local time. The airline said the aircraft was carrying a total of 211 passengers and 18 crew members. Well, for more on this, I'm joined live in the studio by our international correspondent, Afia Hagen. Thank you for joining me. Now, let's get straight to it. Afia, what's the latest on this incident?
Well, 211 passengers and 18 crew, like you said. Singapore Airlines have said that the aircraft experienced severe turbulence and a loss of height at about 37,000 feet, 10 hours after departure. Now, the pilot declared a medical emergency. An emergency landed at Bangkok, and Singapore Airlines said it offers its deepest condolences to the family of the passenger who died, a 73-year-old British man who's thought to have died of a cardiac arrest due to the conditions on that flight.
I mean, this is pretty much, traumatic, particularly for the passengers. For their families and all. Are they reacting?
Absolutely. You know, passengers have been giving eyewitness accounts of what happened. 10 hours into the flight, lots of people didn't have their seatbelts on and were perhaps wandering around. It's a long flight, I've taken it, so it's a stretching their legs moment. Lots of people saying that there wasn't turbulence beforehand, and it was very sudden, so sudden, in fact, that people that were standing up or sitting down without their seatbelts on hit the roof. So hit the places where you have the mask drop down, hit the baggage places, people in a toilet hit their heads, and that's where most of the injuries came from. Lots of screaming, lots of crying, and lots of panicking, you can imagine.
I mean, it's Boeing again. We know that Boeing has been, in the news concerning air disasters and what have you. I mean, does this again put some sort of searchlight into, I call it the burden process of Boeing and all of that? Are we seeing any form of technical fault, to all of this too?
At the moment, no. But you're right in saying it doesn't look good for Boeing because of the news that we've had about Boeing lately.
Yeah.
Singapore Airlines have a really, really great history and record when it comes to safety. It's thought that this is actually about the weather conditions. There was thunder and lightning in the clouds in the area at that time. Perhaps the plane flew through a cloud that had a storm in it that caused this downdraft, this sudden drop of 6,000 feet, and the severe turbulence. Or worse, it was clear weather, and then you get the turbulence. And if you're not in the clouds, then you're absolutely not expecting it. And again, it had this downdraft effect, which meant it had that sudden drop, which caused the injuries. Now, it doesn't look like it's a fault of Boeing yet, but Singapore Airlines are investigating, and of course, we'll hear more in the coming days.
All right, let me just throw in this kicker. I mean, I was still checking yesterday. They tell you the safest form of travel is air travel. But all of this, is it still?
It is, but we are in a period where we are seeing more and more turbulence. It's something like, I was reading up on the statistics earlier on today, and the amount of incidences of people being injured in flights because of turbulence has doubled since the late 70s, early 80s, and that is because of climate change, because we are having more severe storms in these clouds, which means that planes are going through much more turbulence. So incidences of severe turbulence have doubled, incidences of mild turbulence have also gone up as well, but it still remains one of the safest ways to travel.
Thank you so much for your time, Afia.
Thank you.
All right. Now, let's also tell you that Coach Bankole Olowo-Okere has expressed gratitude for the support he and his team have received from football fans as well as the Nigerian Football Federation after Nigeria's under-17 national women's team defeated Burkina Faso 6-0 in a FIFA Under-17 World Cup qualifier yesterday. The match played at the MK Abiola National Stadium in Abuja. Harmony Chidi, who had scored 6 goals against the Central African Republic in the previous round, bagged a hat-trick. Peace Effiong added a brace with Ramota Karim also getting on to the score sheet. The win ensured that Nigeria progresses to the final qualifying round of the FIFA Under-17 World Cup, scheduled for the Dominican Republic later this year, on a 7-1 aggregate. Speaking after the match, Coach Olowo-Okere thanked the fans for their unwavering support. And of course, it's on that note we wrap up the news. But before we go, let's of course give you, a recap of our headlines. We told you that Nigerian Senate to convene National Security Summit. We also told you that 40 killed, houses burnt as bandits attacked Plateau community in Nigeria's north central region. And finally, we also told you that 10 killed in Egypt as minibus plunges off ferry into Nile. Don't forget to send in your eyewitness reports to the WhatsApp number on the screen. You can also follow us on social media. We are at News Central TV. You can watch us live across these platforms: the DSTV channel 422, Star Times channel 274, Apple TV, and YouTube. And thanks for watching. I am Dakbo at Digboy. Bye for now.